In an effort to make my book, Linda Mae, a cancer caregiving memoir, a more acceptable length, I ended up cutting a lot of things that occurred in the first couple weeks of January 2016 after I learned that my mom's experimental trial was not working and that her brain cancer would kill her in the very near future. However, I was stuck in New York City because my dad told me to wait to go home back to Wichita, Kansas until we had more answers. And in this video, I'm going to share some of the things that happened which got left on the cutting room floor. Probably the most significant occurrence happened on January 6th. No, not that January 6th, January 6th, 2016. In a video I uploaded on October 10th, I talked about my first relationship with my boyfriend, Ben, and how I ended up cutting him from the entire book. Well, on December 30th, 2015, Ben and his brother Sam came over to my apartment for dinner. We ate, we drank, I read their astrological charts, and we watched iconic lip sync performances from RuPaul's Drag Race. I thought it was a really fun night. But back to January 6th, I reached out to Ben to see if he was available to meet because I really wanted to tell him about my mom in person and I wanted him to console me and I needed his support. Instead, I got this text message back. Oh, it was fine. He's awkward and he spent an hour reading our passive-aggressive astrological charts. He wasn't into astrology while we were dating. LOL, wow, I'm an asshole. Then I said, hey, you're talking to me because I didn't want him to keep texting me bad things about myself. And then he said, total honesty, my friend had just asked how our dinner was with you last week. What are the chances, Logan? I'm so sorry. Naturally, I wanted him to feel bad because he had made me feel so bad. So I just said, it's cool. Just wanted to see what you guys were up to because I found out that my mom's experimental trial isn't working and she's stopping treatment because the tumor has already doubled in size. So it's only a matter of time before she goes. This was devastating to me because I was already so emotionally fragile about the fact that I was about to lose my mom. And then here was my first true love, who I had bonded a lot with over the fall and winter. And I thought we were in a really good place. And yet he was texting things about me to his friends that seemed to contradict the opinion that I thought he held of me. And it just broke me down completely. I was pacing in my apartment in loops. I was in shambles. So I knew I needed to channel all that energy somewhere and be a little productive. So I went down to the gym in my building, and shortly after starting to work out, I got this email from Ben. Logan, I feel absolutely awful about my accidental text to you. I know it wasn't what you needed to see today of all days. You have to know that I have a great deal of respect for you for all sorts of reasons. Your strength and dedication to your family throughout your mom's struggle has been inspiring. I am super jealous of your work ethic, and the lengths you'll go for others is incomparable. Even through all the rough things life has thrown at you, you are one of the most responsible, caring, and funny people I know. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. Honestly, the niceties that he shared just made me feel more upset because I didn't understand why that isn't what he's saying to his friends and why he was instead just talking down about me. The real reason why Leah comes over to my apartment on January 7th, which is still in the book, was to talk about the situation with Ben versus me processing the latest news about my mom and the conversation that I had with her. However, I just cut all of the part about Ben and left in the stuff about my mom, which is more relevant ultimately anyway. And the reason why I was able to be in my frigid apartment without being bundled up is not only because of the wine and the anxiety that was fueling me, it's because I had so much rage within me. And all those emotions just kept coming up in the subsequent days when I would think about Ben in the context of all future boyfriends that I would have in my life, because he was one of only 2 boyfriends who got to spend time with my mom and my family and knew me before all the trauma that I would go on to experience, which felt like such a luxury in that moment that got wasted on him. However, we would reconcile about a year later, and I learned that the guy he sent the infamous text to was someone he was interested in, so it made a lot more sense why he was trying to downplay our relationship, so that also helped me get some closure about the situation. While all this was going on, I was frequently using Grindr to distract myself. I'm talking nonstop usage. And because I had just started taking PrEP, which is an anti-HIV medication taken daily, I was feeling the most sexually liberated that I had ever been. And the combination of those two factors meant that I hooked up with a lot of people during this time, which didn't feel very appropriate to include in losing Linda Mae, even though I think that the reaction is fairly common when you are contending with life-changing news that you have no power over. You often are looking for ways that you can assert control in your life, and hooking up is one of those things. And I think it's actually a fairly common coping mechanism, especially among gay men. That said, I did actually go on a proper date during this time period, aka I went to lunch with someone instead of just hooking up with them. And the guy actually was younger than me, but had already lost his mom. And during our lunch, I got a phone call from my mom, so I excused myself because I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk to her, knowing that that would be finite. It's one of the few calls I didn't end up including in part 5 because what I discussed with my mom was either referenced elsewhere or it was information that really wasn't that necessary for the narrative. For example, she told me that she had met with an individual who would be her night nurse that would stay over with her during this home hospice care. She told me about how my dad had hooked up this doorbell system for her primary bedroom that she could ring anytime that she needed something. She talked about how Judy, her best friend who was there, was cooking a lot and they were working on her eulogy together because Judy would deliver it during her memorial service. And she told me about how she somehow slid off of her seat while eating breakfast in the kitchen, which I ended up talking about with James in the moment I included for January 9th when we're getting dinner at Empanada Mama's. The call lasted about 10 minutes in total, which is a long time to leave your date alone, but he was completely understanding because all he wanted was to be able to talk to his mom again. Finally, I broke down at a movie theater while waiting on a friend to arrive. We were going to be seeing Anomalisa by Charlie Kaufman together, and I clicked on a link to an article that my sister sent me from Us Weekly about this country musician named Rory Feek who was losing his wife to cancer. Here is an excerpt from the moment that I cut from my book. This is from the very first draft. The article links to a music video for a song by the country duo called When I'm Gone, which was written in 2012. Our make-believe song and video seems to be coming true, he wrote. Some call it life imitating art. I don't, I call it God. He knew I would need her to tell me goodbye, not just once, but 1,000 times. And I'd need to know that no matter how much time passes, that she still loves me. And he made it so that if I needed to be reminded of her beautiful life and heart and voice, she would only be a click away. I cannot help but cry. I turn my back to the old crowd that enters the art house theater. A glutton for punishment, I click on the video. A piano plays. The woman for which the article was about appears. Her beauty would be undisputed. She sings, "A bright sunrise will contradict the heavy fault that weighs you down. In spite of all the funeral songs, the birds will make their joyful sounds. You wonder why the earth still moves. You wonder how you'll carry on. The rate of my tears increases with every line, but you'll be okay on that first day when I'm gone." The song is too much, too relevant. I pause the video, retrieve tissues from my coat pocket, and blot the moisture on my face before it freezes. "You're okay, Logan. You're fine." I repeat the line several times to try and convince myself that I'm speaking the truth. My phone vibrates. James says, "See you in 2 minutes." "Thank God," I say, desperate for a distraction. Usually when I've shared cut content, I end the video with a statement that says something like, "It's obvious why these didn't make the final draft of the book." However, I feel like these events actually do have a place still in the book, but I just couldn't accommodate them based on how long the book was already. And plus, I knew that the readers would be itching for me to get back home, just like I was in real life, and be reunited with my mom. And that's why I made the difficult decision to cut them. In the next video I'll be releasing on January 10th, I'll be talking about the regret that emerges due to anticipatory grief. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description, and I will see you all on the 10th.